We've looked at one example of a graph for quantitative variables, and that's the time plot. And before we move on to the next graph, which is going to be the histogram, I want to look at the distribution of a quantitative variable, because that's really tied into how a histogram is made. So remember that the distribution of a variable tells us what values that variable can take on and how often those values occur. With a categorical variable, we had categories. So maybe I asked you what your favorite fruit was. And so we had grapes and apples and strawberries and bananas. And then we listed how many people or what percentage of people that was their favorite fruit. A quantitative variable is going to work similarly. We're going to break our data into kind of groups and then talk about how many or what percentage of people fall into that group. But the groups are more made by us. So let's look at an example. Suppose I ask 50 students, how tall they are. And so I get a series of heights in inches. In order to break that up, I need to look at what my smallest height is and my tallest height is. So suppose that my shortest person in my group is 59 inches. Then the first subgroup that I'm going to make starts at 59 inches. And in this case, I'm going to go kind of every 3 to 4 inches. So 59 to 62. Then 63 to 66, then 67 to 70, and then 71 to 74. So you're going by that same amount each time, and that's how you're making the group. And then you count how many data values fit within that range. So in this case, there were 10 people between the height of 59 and 62. And then the way that we turn that into a histogram is like this. So here's our 59 to 62, our 63 to 66, 67 to 70, and 71 to 74. So we had 10 people in that 59 to 62, and that's what we see here with that histogram. So that distribution that we can write out in a table really matches with that histogram. Okay, so let's look at the histogram and define what that is. So a histogram shows the distribution of the quantitative variable, and this is the most common graph for quantitative variables. Our description, we have rectangular bars with the length or height of the bar proportional to the count. Okay, so that should sound familiar. The horizontal axis is used for whatever our quantitative variable is. So if it's heights, we'd list the heights in inches. If it was how many years you've been in school, then we would list that with years along that x-axis. The base of each bar represents a range of numerical values. So that's 59 to 62 inches, 63 to 66, and so on. If there's a space, if there's some bars, and then we have no bar and then more bars, that gap there actually means we don't have any data that fits in that range. In a bar chart, we had spaces in between each bars. In a histogram, those bars are all right next to each other. And if for some reason there's a bar missing, it means that you have no data in that range. The other thing to note about a histogram is that you cannot rearrange the bars for a histogram. If you think about that x-axis being the variable that we're measuring, it goes with the number line. So it starts at the smallest number and it just counts up to the larger number. So for that reason, we cannot rearrange the bars on a histogram. All right, so come back in the next video and we'll take a look at how to make a histogram in Excel.